This call is being recorded.
Hello, everyone. This is Renee Rentmeester, creator and executive producer of the Cooking Without Looking show. And we're here today, Cooking Without Looking podcast. Get ready. We have a very special treat for you. We have a member of the National United Society for the Blind in Barbados. Her name is Alinda Brathwaite. Alinda, how are you?
I am fine, Renee, and thank you. Thanks for this very special invitation to the Cooking Without Looking podcast.
Well, thank you. We appreciate having you here. Of course, you're going to be on our show, so people will be able to see you in person or watch you in person cook your wonderful Bajan macaroni pie. But today we've got some extra things. So you had something else for today that you were going to share with us, a recipe. But first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am 60 years old. I am a mother. I was educated in Trinidad because I am totally blind, I have to say. When I lost my sight, there was no school for the blind in Barbados, so I had to be sent to Trinidad for my primary and secondary education. I returned to Barbados in the 80s, and I attended community college, Barbados Community College, and subsequently I got a job as a telephone operator with, at the time it was Barclays Bank, and then later on First Caribbean International Bank, and I retired after 23 years in 2010. I retired.
Ah, well, that's great. Tell us a little bit. So you said you were blind from birth, correct?
From about 4.5 as a result of glaucoma. It was hereditary in my family.
Ah, okay. What was that like for you? Did you go to a special school?
Yes, well, as I said, when it was felt that I could not get an education here, I was sent to Trinidad at the age of 5, and that's where I received my primary education. It was at a school for the blind, so they were all blind children at this school. So we did the regular subjects, English, math, using Braille, of course. So that's where my early education took place in Trinidad.
So were you all by yourself there, or were your family able to come along with you?
No, I was on my own. I mean, at 5 years old, I was on my own.
Wow.
I had to get used to the what we call them at the time, house mothers, and of course I made friends. So it was an experience.
What were you feeling? That must have been something since you were so young.
Well, of course I heard. I didn't know, but I heard that I cried the whole night when I first went there. And I had to be the principal. Yeah, the principal and his wife had to take me in their quarters because I would not sleep. And after that, obviously, I got into all the children and, the house mothers. And so, after a while, I guess I got into it. But, I had no choice.
Right, exactly. That's something that we forget because a lot of places don't necessarily have a school for the blind, and right now they usually put you right in with the other students, don't they?
Yes. Well, you see, at that time there was not much talk about integration and mainstreaming and stuff. So that's why there was a school for the blind, and that was in Trinidad. And actually, the only 2 Caribbean islands that had schools for the blind was Trinidad and Jamaica. So at the time, the only choices they had was to send the children that were blind at that time to either Trinidad or Jamaica. So they sent me to Trinidad.
Wow. Well, how did you get into cooking?
I learned to cook after I left home, actually, because when I was at home, you know how some of us, our parents were very overprotective, and my parents were that way. Well, not so much my mom, but my dad would say things like, "Oh, I'm not going to let you light a stove in here," that kind of thing. So after I left home and I decided to go on my own, I learned to cook actually on the phone through a blind friend of mine.
Oh, wow. That's
Yes.
Tell us about that. Tell us about it.
Well, I would call her up and I would ask her, how do you do so and so? And how do you do rice? And how would you know when the rice is boiling? So she explained all the tips to me on the phone. So I just tried them. As soon as I would have on the phone and I would call her and say, okay, well, I'm planning to do this, a particular dish. And she would tell me, well, this is what you do. This is the method you use. And that's how I learned to cook.
You wrote the book?
Pardon?
What did you say? Did you say that you wrote a book of cooking?
No, I said that's how I learned to cook, using the phone and my friend that was very helpful in explaining to me what, the different methods to use to do different dishes.
Sure. So what are some of your favorite dishes to cook?
Well, my favorite dishes, I prefer baking than cooking, honestly, but I cook. My favorite dishes would be like macaroni pie, which I'm going to do for you next Friday. Looking forward to that.
Yay!
Yes. I also like to do pilau. Pilau is like a Trinidadian dish, really. But what it is that you do everything together. You cook the rice, peas, meat, everything almost together. First, you do the meat first, and when the meat gets a certain way, then you add your rice and your peas. So it's like a nice cook up, what we call in the Caribbean a cook up.
Oh, sort of like, would you say concoction in English?
Yeah, concoction, and then what goes in with the concoction is coconut milk, so that makes it yummy.
Oh, wow. Is coconut milk, is that often used in your cooking in Barbados?
Yes, a lot of people use coconut milk, especially people who are very health conscious. Use a lot of coconut milk.
Ah, tell us some more about some of the different things you like. What do you like to bake? You said you're more of a baker, right?
Yes, well, one of my favorite dishes, and I'm sure you will see it on my bio, I love to do cheesecake.
Oh,
So
wow.
yes, I actually learned to do cheesecake from a recipe that I got in the 80s when I was at school. We used to get a Braille magazine called the Braille Mirror. And in this Braille Mirror, there was an insert with a recipe every month. So I would take out the recipes, and I had quite a collection actually. And so that cheesecake was one of the things that I learned to do from a recipe.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. What are some of the special things you do to the cheesecake? Do you do it any differently by being in a sort of like a Caribbean way?
Well, I have never actually tried because you use a lot of different toppings now. So like people would do like a mango topping, which I plan to try. I have done pineapple topping, but traditionally I do the cherry pie topping or the blueberry or raspberry. But I do have plans to try the mango topping and I've done pineapple, as I said before, and people even do a Bailey's, like Bailey's cheesecake, or Bailey's that
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that's yummy.
Oh, that sounds
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, you know what? The toppings, that mango sounds really good. I bet maybe a combination of the mango and the pineapple together.
Yeah, it's just that the pineapple is a little bit more acid, so to me it may make it a little. But you experiment from time to time with things. So you try it and then you see how it tastes, and then well, okay, well I'll go with this for this time, and next time I'll just do the one topping. So I
Sure.
experiment
Well, what kind of challenges do you find in the kitchen that you've overcome that you might be able to help others with?
in the kitchen. The main challenges I see in the kitchen, well, for me, is having the little gadgets or additions to help you, and that would be things like, braille measuring spoons and cups. I've advised some people to use the talking scale because it works for them. I've never had a talking scale, a kitchen scale, but I do my measurement using just the cups, the measuring cups and the spoons. I haven't really had many challenges. I don't have a fear of being burnt or anything because I've never had any major problems with, accidents in the kitchen.
That's great because some people they when they go blind actually they have this fear, but then since you've been blind since you were so little, do you think that actually helped you overcoming fears or not having fears at all?
Yes, it was a great help to me because, as you said, someone who is newly lost their sight, they would have more fears because obviously they saw all of their life. Whereas with me, it was the opposite. I became blind, as I said, at 4.5. So this is my life. So I really don't have any fears. People would come, sometimes when my friends come, or my sisters, they come and they, oh, you're putting your hand too close to the fire. But I put my hand, when I light the stove, I usually put my hand a little bit over the flame just to measure how high it is, or and then I would know, well, I have to turn it down because obviously certain things that you cook would need less of a flame than other things. So that's just my measurement, but I'm not afraid of being burnt or anything.
It's usually the people watching that are more afraid than the person actually doing it because you know what you're doing and you've been trained well, you know.
That is so true. Yeah, that is true.
What were some of the things that if you were to run your own school for the blind, what would you do?
Cool.
In
Well,
comparison to what you grew up with at that school, how
mhm.
are there any changes you would make if you had your own school for the blind?
Oh, definitely. One of the things that well, I felt was sadly lacking at that school was the fact that we were never taught on our orientation and mobility. We were never taught that. And as a result of that, a lot of us left school not knowing how to get around on our own. Well, we did have domestic science at school as a subject, so some of us did learn to cook, although after a while that too was discontinued. So the main thing that I would implement if I had my own school for the blind would be that the children be taught orientation and mobility. It's so vital to life, for your life skills and so on. So
Well,
definitely
isn't
that
that
would
like the main thing you have to learn when you're blind?
yes, but you see, don't forget that was back in the 60s. So back then, people probably felt that blind persons always would have someone to take them here, there, and so I felt that that was they were from the old school. So to me, that was probably their feeling that we didn't need to have those skills. But as you got older and as times change, you realize how important it is to have those kind of skills because you have to work, you will get to the stage where you have a family, and you're not going to always have someone to take you everywhere you want to go.
Right. And like you say, the thinking back then was very different about a blind person. They probably figured you'd just be at home sitting. They probably didn't even think about having a family as a person who was
Exactly,
blind.
exactly. And back then too, they probably always thought that most of us when we left school we would probably just go to a sheltered workshop, and do make canes or whatever, baskets or whatever, do each every day. And they didn't think that we would have other jobs like I had. I worked in the private sector in banking and stuff. They didn't think we would have those kind of jobs. So for them, it was like, okay, we would get to the workshop, some transportation would take us there and bring us back home. But in my case, and in other people's cases, they had to get to their job on a daily basis.
Sure, exactly. Well, what recipe do you have for us today, Alinda?
Well, the recipe that I have, wow, I didn't come prepared with a recipe to say. Um, I just, well, I can give some tips because I didn't actually bring a recipe
Okay,
with me.
tips are fine. Tips are fine. We love them.
So I would just tell the listening audience how to do the pilau, the cook up that I spoke about. Um, what you do is we usually like to do it with chicken breast, but we cut it up small and you put the chicken on for like 15 minutes because what you want to do is like you want to have it get to a particular color. So what you do is you put like when you put in the oil in the pan, You put the oil in pan first, then you do like you add some brown sugar, some sugar. So you kind of like what we call burn the oil. Let the oil get a particular color. Then you put in your chicken, and that cooks for like between 15 and 20 minutes, or maybe a little longer. Then when you test it and you realize the chicken is getting to kind of soft, and so then you add your rice. So the chicken and the rice is cooking together. Then maybe about another half an hour or so, probably a little bit longer, because you want the rice to be a certain texture as well. You check that as well. Then you add what we call pigeon peas in a can. But most of us use the pigeon peas in a can because it's already cooked. So when you put it in, there's not much cooking to do. So when you add it, the rice has to be fairly well cooked, because otherwise it will be soggy. So you add that, and then you add the coconut milk, and the smell is delicious. And then you're done.
I can just imagine. I love anything with coconut milk in it.
Yeah, it's delicious. And most of the times people like to eat it with coleslaw. You know what is coleslaw, right? You know what is coleslaw?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted. I never thought to do coleslaw with coconut milk, but oh my God, that sounds amazing.
No, it goes as a side dish, like a salad. But most
Sure.
people use like to do it with as a side dish to go with the pilau. So that's a nice tasty meal.
Oh, that sounds amazing. It just sounds wonderful. Tell us a little bit about your organization, the National United Society for the Blind of Barbados. Tell us about it.
Okay, the National United Society for the Blind was started in the 70s, so it's not a young organization. What we do is we aim to serve blind and visually impaired persons in Barbados to get them to the point where they can feel, they can regain, for those who have lost their independence due to blindness, they can find ways and means to regain their independence. And for those of us who have come up being blind, that we would take all the tools that we can find to make our lives more interesting and exciting. And our slogan is, there is life after blindness. So we always encourage our members to strive for the stars, do everything that they can to make their life better and richer.
I like that. Strive for the stars. What have you gained specifically from them personally, on a personal basis?
Personally, I have gained a lot being a member of the NUSB. I was a member from 2018. I am now the public relations officer of the group, and it has given me it has boosted my self-confidence. Well, my self-confidence is always sky high, but it has been boosted even more being a member of NUSB, because
you are a very confident person.
Thank you. I usually go to speak on behalf of the organization, and go on the radio, because obviously our aim is to get as much public awareness as we can for the blind, because there's some people out there who still feel that blind persons has to be kept in the background, and our slogan, our aim is to bring blind and visually impaired persons in the foreground, because we don't stop living because we lost our sight. We have to continue living. We have families. We have to work. So that's what I've gained from being a member of NUSB.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's right, because I think in the old days, a lot of people, if they had children who were blind or whatever, and then as they grew, are often kept away from the other people, from the sighted people, from just anyone, and I think that's a huge step. I think in a lot of times. Do you agree, or?
Yeah, I agree, because I keep telling people, when I was younger, when I was at home with my family, my parents, because I used to come home on at vacation time. So when I was home and anyone comes to the house, rather than my parents leave me behind and say, well, come and meet Mr. Brown or Mr. whatever, they would always call me first before my other sisters, because it was always felt that people used to always felt, as you just said, that they should keep blind persons in the background, but I was never kept in the background. I was always the one to be called out and say, oh, she's at school in Trinidad and she's doing this and she came first in her class, and there was always room for that. So I never felt left behind.
Well, that's a good thing. I'm glad this has all changed, and that's part of what we do the show and the podcast for, because a lot of people don't know blind people, so they don't even know how to react around them. Do you have any good stories about people who maybe just didn't know how to react around you because you were blind?
Yes, I have a lot of stories I can share, but one story that stands out is some time ago I went to a store. I wanted to buy a pair of shoes, and the lady came to me and she showed me the shoes and said, "Oh, I love these shoes." But I was about to try on the shoes, and she bent down and she was taking off my shoes so that she can put the shoes for me to try on my foot. So I told her, "Well, no, give me the shoe and I am going to put it on." And she had an attitude. She said, "Oh, but the others that come here, I do this for them." So obviously she felt that because the other people would allow her to take off their shoes, I would do the same. But she figured that blind people, that's what she had to do.
Oh my gosh. Well, it reminds me of the time I went to talk to some kids about blindness at a school, and they're like middle schoolers, and they asked me, well, how do blind people put their pants on? And I said, well, tomorrow morning when you're getting ready, close your eyes and put your pants on, because you know where your legs are.
Exactly.
It sounds like
Exactly.
that lady thought you wouldn't know where your feet were.
Yeah, she really was. She was really upset. She
Well, Linda, let us tell us how people who want to reach out to you, how they can reach out to you, and how they can reach out to the organization.
They can reach out to the organization via our email. It's N as in nice, U, S as in San, B, Barbados, capital B for Barbados, at gmail.com. And they can also reach us via Facebook, NUSB on Facebook. I'm not sure the actual link, but that's how they can reach out to us via the email. They can also call. There's also a number they can call. Well, of course, you put in the 1 before the number, and the number for NUSB is 1-234-3331. That's the number, and you'll get the president, Mr. Williard Welch. He usually has the phone, so he would take your call. And you can reach me via my email at Brathwaite, which is my last name, Alinda@gmail.com. And also you can reach me via phone at 1-236-236-1776. 236, that is 236-1236-1776. That's my cell number.
Okay, great. Well, it's been wonderful having you, Alinda, and I just want to tell everyone they'll be able to see you prepare your Bajan macaroni pie, which is sort of like a spicy version or a spicier version of macaroni and cheese. I guess it's the Bajan version from Barbados, and they can see that next Friday, June 11th, and they'll be able to see it on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, our Cooking Without Looking YouTube channel after that. So I want to thank you so much for your time today and your time on Friday. We really enjoyed speaking with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Renee. It's been a pleasure being on your podcast today, and I look forward to being on the show next Friday. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you. And this has been Renee Rentmeester, creator, executive producer of the Cooking Without Looking TV show and podcast. We always say that we're changing the way we see blindness. If you want to see the recipes, go to our website. The recipe, Alinda's recipe, is on there right now. It's www.cookingwithoutlookingtv.wordpress.com. That's www.cookingwithoutlookingtv.wordpress.com. You'll be able to see and try Alinda's recipe right now. You take care. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.